Hi there, and welcome to episode 6 of Foggy with a Chance of Seagulls podcast. My name is Clark Weininger. As always, I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Evan Lindsay. This week, we'll be talking about the past week of Giants baseball. We'll be talking about the very impactful debut of Marco Luciano, and some of our opinions on the upcoming trade deadline. I hope you all enjoy.
I feel like there's movies where they intentionally mess with the continuity, scene by scene. I feel like we should just keep doing that. But
It'll be a
bit. But the point I was going to try to make is that re-baseball and masculinity, that I feel like it's kind of like with the Angels, it's looking at, and sports fans in general, they look at what's happening right now and don't like to think about the things that have led to that point. And it's like, well, there's only so much you can do in a given situation based on how you've gotten here. And so it almost is like, it's almost, sometimes I hear discourse about sports stuff and it's disingenuous to a point, because it's like, it's so reactionary to what's happening right now. But it's like, the Angels should have traded Shohei last year, at the deadline or during the offseason.
To the Giants. Come on, guys.
To the Giants.
Everyone knows this.
Of course. But, I mean, it's like, that's when his value is at the highest. And they just, didn't have a winning club. And they tried this year, which I appreciate. But I think they should have torn it down to the studs, because, it's Trout is getting older. Rendon's not. I just don't see it for them. But regardless of how you feel about what should be done now, it's like, I think, to bring it back to the Giants for a second, it's like, that's, I think, the beauty and genius of this front office is that it's so process oriented. And it's like, we're going to make mistakes along the way, but we trust in the process. And I think that with sports owners and teams and front offices, it's like, it's so easy to let's fire this guy, let's fire the manager, bring in this guy, new GM, where I'm going to spend all this. But it's like, you have to settle into an organization and to go back to the Mets for a second too. It's like, Steve Cohen just came in there and was like, let's shake it all up. And it's just like, you've got to understand what you have already. And I think it's so tempting to just come in and be like, I'm going to get my guys in the front office, on the field. Don't like this guy, get him out of here. And it's just like, I don't know. I think that to value players, to value front office members, scouts, and things like that, I think it takes time to get to know a franchise. And then when you make these kind of rash decisions like the Angels often do, then you find yourself in this position. And it's like, okay, contextually in the present day, it's admirable that they are doing what they're doing, but it's kind of misguided more holistically when you zoom out and look at the whole thing. And I think that that's what men do a lot. is let me make a big mess and then let me try to clean it all up really quick when somebody's coming over to go look. Do you know what I mean? And it's just it doesn't feel sustainable long term.
I like this. That's a hell of a take. And I think a very interesting comparison. I'd say, and maybe this is kind of reinforcing your point, though, there are so many fans of all teams who would rather their teams not be process oriented, that they want instant gratification as soon as possible. And I'm sure many Angels fans out there are thinking their front office right now going,
yeah,
we wanted 2 extra months of Shohei. We don't care what he does after the fact. And I think baseball is more interesting, or enjoyable, at least to me, when we're not focused on the value that we can glean from a particular player or a deal, and just appreciate Shohei in an Angels uniform, maybe for his last 2 months. And he is on an absolute heater this year. I mean, he's running away with the MVP, and I don't even think that gets close to describing how incredible his season has been. He really is doing stuff that I don't really think I thought was possible on a baseball field.
Yeah.
The double header he had. Did you see this double header?
Yeah.
Can you tell the people what happened?
Well, this man, Shohei, I wish he had a middle name. Shohei John Ohtani went to Detroit, Michigan, and threw a complete game shutout
Mm-hmm.
in the first half of a doubleheader, and then comes back and hits two damn home runs in the second half of the doubleheader. And when you put it like that, I understand why they want to keep him around for another couple months. And I think that I think I find fair. And we'll put the clip in the thing. It's just unreal. I mean, it's literally never been done before at this level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you talk about Babe Ruth, it's more than Babe Ruth. Like, it's not the same thing at all. And um, but I understand wanting to watch him for 2 more months. I just wonder if Lucas Giolito is the guy that's gonna make a difference for you to, like, make it worth going for it at the deadline. It's like, I'm not saying that necessarily, like, Scherzer is better or something, but it's like, if you're gonna go for it, freaking go for it, right? I think is kind of my feeling about it.
I totally agree with that. So we'll see how it goes with them. The American League, just like the National League, is super bunched up.
Yeah,
Um, I think this is a great example of the benefit of the expanded postseason
yeah,
this year. It really highlights just how many teams are in the race, which also makes the deadline tough because you've got teams like the Angels who think they have a chance. The Cubs
yeah.
right now, I think, have a lot of guys that would be
Mm,
interesting to trade for.
yeah,
They've been on quite the winning streak and they're like 3 games out of the playoffs. They're also behind like 4 teams. So
yeah.
there's this like conversation. Are you in it? Are you out of it? You referenced this already, but the Giants falling to kind of an interesting place. I'm still very much a believer in this squad. I think um, I really think we've underestimated what having Tyro out and Wade has been
Yeah,
banged up. He's not on the IL, but Wade hasn't been himself either. And
yeah,
losing our 1 and 2 in our batting order is a significant loss.
right.
Um, so I think we've been weathering the storm, weathering the empty storm for some of you out there. Not going to explain that reference, but those who know will appreciate it. Um, but we're weathering the storm, and I don't with the deadline a few days away, I don't see us making a big splash. And I'm sure even before this posts, there will be a big splash that will make this take look stupid. But unless it's Verlander, which seeing the trade that took Scherzer from the Mets to the Rangers,
Mhm.
all they did was they gave up their number 3 prospect, who happens to be Ronald Acuna Jr. as Ronald Acuna Jr.'s little brother, which maybe we should
Luis
talk about
Angel.
Ronald Luis Angel Acuna, um, who is their number 3 prospect. We'll see what that ends up being. And then they took on a good percentage of the money, it looked like.
Yeah,
I think the Mets are covering like 22 million of that deal.
yeah,
Um, but I think that's an interesting structure for the Giants with Verlander is give up one top 5 prospect. I think our system is potentially better than the Rangers system, but I'm not positive on that. But give up like I don't know, Grant McCray, maybe even Casey Schmidt, Carson Wisenhunt, one of those
yeah.
3 guys, and then take on a little bit of the money, and we get Verlander for this season and next. Does that put us over the edge? Much like the Angels conversation with Giolito. What do you think? What does that do to our playoff chances if August 2nd, Verlander is now in our rotation?
Well, I mean, it's it's so interesting. I it, take a shot every time I say interesting in this damn episode. But like the seasons that Verlander and Scherzer have had, I feel like really mirror each other a little bit. Like, just the fact that they
Very
both went
much
to the
so.
Mets, and then they had this kind of middling season riddled with injuries. They're both getting up there in age. Like, I think
No, they're both
um
up there in age. They're not getting anywhere. They've been up there.
in baseball terms, yes, they are up there. But it's they're they're difference makers potentially, obviously, and like the biggest you're getting these guys for the postseason for the playoffs, but there's no guarantee that they're going to be that either. I mean, I think if I were a betting person, I'd probably put money on you throw these guys in the game in October and they're going to show up for you. But I don't know, it's like it's the magic dust doesn't like go forever with Verlander. I mean, he's already come back once in a big way in his career. Like, is he going to be able to like find that second gear again? And I don't know. But I think what's interesting about the Giants too is that we always, I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, we always wait until the last minute, kind of,
Hmm.
because we're such like data collectors and like just trying to assess exactly who this team is, trying to like not pay for an additional day of value and like really like seeing where they can like swoop in and zag where other people are going to zig. And I don't know. So I think Verlander makes a difference. And I think um for everything that I've said bad about the Mets, the fact that they went out and just spent a lot of money this year means that they kept their farm system in a good place, kind of, that they didn't gut it completely to build this team. And so I think that there's something hmm, interesting about doing a move like Verlander, but I kind of I feel like the Giants find a way to find a name that like is out there, but I just like but you don't expect. And so I sometimes like with when we got Bryant, it was like, okay, this feels like something that could happen, but will it actually happen? I don't know. And then it did. So that does happen with the front office, but I think it might be, these kind of B, C tier guys that like can make more of a difference. Like you look at the Braves and um they got like Pierce Johnson, former Giant from the Rockies, and it's like and like those players like you have to just like put fill needs. And I think that like the Braves are great at doing that. So it's like, what are our needs? It's like ultimately we need like a 2-3 starting pitcher and a middle infielder, hopefully, or just like somebody with like some pop or something, just give a different look in the lineup. And those guys don't have to be these big ticket items necessarily. So
Hmm.
um and like you said, I think I've been critical of this team, but the talent level is there, and we've seen it. And I think it just like that's what I was saying, like that. I think this deadline is so important. Is like that the guys that they bring in, I think it's like how they bring out the best in everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that it's the best option, but like, would a Tony Kemp be a good guy to bring in to like I don't know. Do you know, just because more for like less for the on field stuff, but just like people talk about Duffy coming back because of the good
Hmm.
vibes and Kemp coming because of Yaz's friendship. Like I don't know. Like I don't know how to determine these things, but sometimes those things
Yeah.
matter more than the
Yeah,
on
I
field
think
thing.
I think that's interesting. I I actually, with us bringing up Luciano, wonder if even though we do have needs of middle infield depth and maybe even need like a difference maker there, I would be so content if we didn't grab anyone and we just committed to having this guy very similarly to Matos, to Bailey, to Schmidt, just like develop at the major league level, go
Yeah.
through your highs and lows. If we can ride a hot streak, it's worked with each one of those rookies that they've come in and we've
Hmm.
like we've ridden a wave of their, energy, their newness to the big leagues, and
Yeah.
maybe that's going to be the same here with Lucy. And then we get Tyro back. It looks like Haniger is on track to coming back earlier than was originally forecasted, which is great.
Mm.
Um, so
And
yeah,
Crawford is back up too.
and Crawford's back up. Yeah, and he'll be playing today probably. Um, so I think in some ways it might be more of a deadline of addition by subtraction. The
Mm.
subtraction being we have this glut of starters who we don't trust to really start games.
Yeah.
And um although Manaya pitched so well yesterday, and I would say his value would probably be the lowest because he hasn't really started all year. But like a DeSclafani and a Wood, I think their deals both end after this year, and there might be or no, I think they both got 3-year deals. I don't remember exactly, but
Whatever.
yeah. Um,
They're
but
tradable,
with
yeah.
Wood and DeSclafani, I think there's potential to get off their deals. Maybe a team needs that back end rotation help in a way that we don't necessarily, but we need a higher end. So I don't know how that kind of trade will work. It's not as kind of common at the deadline,
Yeah.
but
I
that
see
makes the
that
most
for
sense to me.
yeah, I agree. I think a Giants the Giants front office like this too is like is is not so binary and like we are buyers or we are sellers. Like I think
Never. Yeah.
they're looking towards this year as much as they're looking towards 2024 and 2025. I think. And so it's trying to find that balance. So I agree and I think maybe what's worth discussing too for a little bit is like what the NL West looks like now for the rest of the year because um the Dodgers are, you know, I regret ever talking smack about the Dodgers a few weeks ago because they've turned it on and
Yeah.
you know they went out and they got Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly and somebody
Falls in the
else.
same category for me
Yeah.
as the
But
Angels conversation. But Lance Lynn, he could find it randomly and it
yeah,
wouldn't shock me, I guess.
yeah, and I mean he's just like but it's like they're not asking him to be like an ace or something as he's been in the past. They're just asking him to like fill a role and
Yeah.
but I think it's less about the players that they are bringing in and more the fact that they are buying as they always will. I was scared a little bit with the Arenado thing, but it looks like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank God the Cardinals didn't do that.
yeah,
They
jeez,
I had a lot of confidence that the Cardinals wouldn't do something that would pain me like that, like trading Arenado to the Dodgers, because they're a smart franchise. Even though they're having a bad year, they're not a franchise that like makes dumb decisions.
yeah,
And I just want to thank you, Cardinals, for
yeah.
not ruining my life by sending Arenado to the Dodgers.
Mine is
Um,
hiring Ollie Marmol. They've been genuinely make good decisions, but
yeah, they're
um
a smart organization that hires people like Ollie Marm.
I don't think they could have known that he'd be this stupid, but
Yeah.
um
Going back
anyway,
to the NL West, I
yes.
pulled up the standings. So as of this recording, the Dodgers are 59 and 44. The Giants are 57 and 48. So 3 games back, 4 back in the loss column um, than the Dodgers. Arizona is 56 and 49, so a game behind us, and the Padres are 51 and 54. And they're 9 back of the Dodgers, 6 back of us. Um, what's funny though is the Padres have the second best run differential in the division.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers have the best, Padres have the second best, we have the third best, and the Diamondbacks have the worst run differential out of those 4 teams. The Padres' expected record this year is 59 and 46, and they are 51 and 54. So they have been unlucky. I think some of this too is like their extra inning failures.
Mm.
They're not. We've been seeing the Giants not be able to hit with runners in scoring position, but it's been happening to the Padres all season long. So, but yeah, interesting standings. We're 3 games behind the Dodgers. Kind of feels like they're starting to run away with it, but and the Diamondbacks kind of feel like they're scuffling and losing
Yeah.
steam. But
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about too is like it's so now we have the Dodgers that like you know, the Giants could overtake them. I mean, I don't put that out of the realm of possibility, but
mhm.
most likely Dodgers are going to take the division, and then so you look at the wild card now, and we're a half game up on the Phillies in Cincinnati, and kind of the people that are threatening are Arizona, Miami, both a half game back of the
Mhm.
Phillies and the Reds, and then the Cubs and theoretically San Diego, but I don't know. San Diego has said that they're open to trading Snell and Hader, and like that's not a team that's going for it. So, and I
Well,
think
and
that
this
that's
goes
like,
back to our conversation about the Angels. Like, are the Padres who went all in the opposite way, are they going to cut bait on Soto potentially? It doesn't feel like Soto, but Hader and Snell could fetch them a lot to retool next year.
Yeah.
Um,
Still incredible
and
that the
yeah,
Padres are where they are, but
oh,
I think it's like
I love
they've
it. I have this
they've
hot
been
take.
yes,
I can
go for
come
it.
back to this hot take if you want, or I
No,
can
hit it.
throw it out right now. I think Fernando Tatis hurts your ability to win games.
Mm,
He is a phenomenal player. He jumps off the screen when you watch highlights, but I think it is fascinating that the 2 seasons where he has been like an all-star caliber, he was an MVP candidate in 2021. Those 2 years, 2021 and this year, he's been really good and the team has been below expectations. And then last
mhm.
year he didn't play at all and they made it to the NLCS. Interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Interesting. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I I used to chalk it up to his bad shortstop defense, but now he's like a gold glover in right field. So the defense can't be it. It kind of feels just like a vibes thing, but I don't follow the team well enough to really know if
Yeah.
he's a locker room kind of cancer, so to speak. But
Yeah. But it
I
doesn't
get the
I
sense he's well liked in that organization. So
yeah, same. That's really interesting. I mean, it's what's wild too is like this year, um he's in the outfield now and then Ha-Sung Kim is I mean, second base or whatever and then Bogarts is
mhm.
at shortstop. But like Um, I saw something that Ha-Sung Kim has like 5 WAR on Baseball
Yeah,
Reference, which
he's
I think that's
leading the National League in wins above replacement,
and
which
that
I
in
think,
Fangraphs it's
yeah,
different, but but like still the point stands that like he's there, and that's on top of Bogarts, Machado, Soto,
right.
theoretically Matt Carpenter. But there's just been a lot of choke jobs from a lot of people. But Juan Soto is playing to expectations more or less.
Yeah.
Um, Bogarts has been average. Machado's been a little bit better than average. Um, I don't know. It's interesting with this team, but it's nice from a selfish perspective, from a Giants fan's perspective, to leave them behind and kind of just worry about now. It's like D backs and Dodgers, and I don't know
And
the
based on the expanded postseason too, Marlins and all those
Marlins,
teams you mentioned
Phillies,
too.
Reds,
But
and whatever.
keep
But
going. Sorry.
no, but I think it's wow, the Cubs have won 8 in a row. But it's I don't know. I think within our division, I wonder what the D-backs do because
Hmm.
I think they're a threat as much as anybody, and I think we just know more about them based on like us being their league. But you look around, and I don't know. My friend Anthony will hate me for saying this. Thank you for listening to the pod, but I don't know if the Marlins are like really for real. The Cubs went on this win streak, but like they've got a lot of holes in the lineup. The Reds are a good team to be sure, but they're kind of I don't see them going far in the postseason. The Phillies, I don't know what to make of. So it's just an interesting position to be in, and I think seeing how all those teams what they do at the deadline will greatly affect our chances
Yeah.
in the playoffs as
I
well.
think right now I'm very confident in saying that the Dodgers and the Braves are winning their divisions.
Yeah,
Um,
agree.
one of Reds and Brewers will be winning that division. And so you've got 3 spots for 5 teams, basically. So
Yeah.
right now it's Giants, Phillies, Reds, D backs, and Marlins. Um, I really like where the Giants are at. We're right now we're leading the wild card race.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not convinced the Diamondbacks are going to stay relevant all year.
I agree.
Um, and I think this is a successful season. I think very similar to the Giants' position. It's a successful season because your young guys have shown something and gone through struggles that they will benefit from years down the line. The difference is I think the Giants just have better veterans right now
Mhm.
and guys who can win in the dog days of August, who can win in September. Um, and we have a little bit more capital from which to, spend money and make certain trades potentially. So I don't know. I feel confident that we can stay above the Diamondbacks. The Reds are a great story. And like you said, the Phillies are kind of weird, but they've been there. So I kind of trust they're going to sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it's also, I mean, just quickly aside about the Phillies, like I don't know. I kind of didn't put together that Turner and Harper like are together. I mean, like Turner obviously
yeah.
scuffled this year, but just like, man, the talent level on that 2019 Nationals team
Oh,
is kind
man.
of crazy to think about. Like, but
That
again,
was one of
looking,
my favorite World Series teams in the last few years.
I agree.
That is kind of the that is a good point. If someone were to make an argument that what the Angels are doing is smart, is like you can catch lightning in a bottle in the playoffs, and when you have a lot of talented dudes
Yeah,
who might just hit at the same time,
right.
and you've found these like kind of B tier veterans. So like that year, um, Josh Harrison just or no
Hmm.
no no sorry not Josh Harrison, Howie Kendrick. Um, was the I think he was the World Series MVP. Just had a phenomenal series, and that was the difference. It can be random guys like that. We saw it with Marco Scutero. So
Yeah,
that's the fun in baseball is like you never know what team is gonna catch lightning in a bottle.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
No, I agree.
the
I
Phillies
mean,
have the talent there, and very
yeah.
reminiscent too of that team that both of those two guys were on.
Totally. And I think the last point I want to bring up, I feel like on this podcast I play the role of the pessimist, which I don't mean to, but I was just looking at the schedule for the rest of the year and it is
Bro,
tough.
August
There's
is about to be
August
yeah,
is tough and September's not that much easier. So let me just read out our
yeah.
series in order. Next, we're finishing up against the Red Sox here, and then we're playing the D-backs, who are definitely not out of it yet. We're right there with them.
Mhm.
A little bit of a gimme series with the A's, and then we've got those Angels that we spoke of. Then the Rangers, top of their division. Rays, top of their division. Braves, top of their division. Phillies that we were just talking about. Braves again. Reds again. Padres, who are still not an easy win. Cubs, who are on the streak we just talked about. We have two series against the Rockies, but then we've got
Woo!
Guardians, D backs, Dodgers, Padres, Dodgers to end the year. And that's quite a gauntlet. So I think that we can do it, but we really have to step up to the plate, if you
Well,
will.
nice. I like that. Well, if you're playing the role of pessimist, my job, forever optimist here, will come in and say, we've struggled the most against bad teams this year. We've been beating good teams. It's
That's
the
true.
it's the Nationals and Tigers that have been killing us this year, the Royals too.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
and a lot of these games are at home too, which I think contributes to a lot of it. Last weekend, it just was so clear we had dead legs after that road trip.
Yeah,
And hopefully just being home and being able to, I mean, it wasn't nothing that took we swept the A's at home.
yeah,
Didn't always look the prettiest, but like you bank wins throughout the year and then kind of get your confidence from there. And if we can pull out a series here against the Red Sox later today, everyone listening to this will already know the result. So hopefully I'm happy on Monday morning. But yeah,
no, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think we do play to the like talent level of our opponent, and I think that that theory will be really borne out here in the last 2 months, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be, um, we're in a position to play exciting baseball, and we're in a position to get to September, and so um, yeah, I think it'll be. I think the team that we had this week will look very different to the team that we'll have
hmm,
when we talk again next week. Just in terms of hopefully guys getting reinstated, new guys being brought in. You know, Luciano on the squad now. Like I'd love to like I'm I'd love to see him like really, really catch fire
Yeah.
because I think we kind of
Let's
need it a little bit.
let's talk about Marco briefly.
Yeah.
As number one Marco Luciano spokesperson slash fan, um, I would love to chat a little bit about my boy Marco. No, he looks like a professional out there. He had
Mm,
a double and a single yesterday. He made a really good play at shortstop yesterday. A play that made me go, "Oh, he can stick."
mm,
Um, I don't know if you got to see it,
no.
but it was a play in the hole where he backhands it. It hit him like right up the like hand of the glove, but it like stuck in the glove, and he threw a one hopper, and he just threw it straight on a line, like maybe like hip height, and then it hit the grass, and then on one hop went right to Wilmer, and it was like, wow, that was a very impressive throw. It looked like a veteran who has been throwing on this grass for ages and like knows the way the ball's going to bounce at different speeds and stuff. It just was a very impressive play. Um, he yeah, just doesn't look overwhelmed out there at the plate either. So, um,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
if he were to catch fire, or if he were to show us something in the next couple days, like we might not trade for middle infield depth. He
yeah,
could very easily be that deadline deal. And to your point, our team would still look different. I mean, there's a shakeup needed, but it could be an internal shakeup, which I think would be
yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, I think I mean, as I had been banging the drum, I think it's like I think the next 2 days will be important data for the front office on, like, how they're gonna move forward, you know? Like, is he somebody that we can not have a middle infield guy, and then maybe it's an outfielder that we bring in with some pop or something like that, but, yeah, I think I did tune in for his debut, and saw him hit that rocket to right field, and just that alone is
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I think with him and with all also Bryce Eldridge was at the field, our
Mm-hmm.
number one guy, on the day he debuted, and there's something that is really, you know, I'll put away the pessimist hat for a second and put on optimist hat and say I really like the way that with our minor leaguers, it feels like makeup is a big thing that we're
Yeah.
putting a premium
That's
on,
a great
and I
point.
think that what I've read and heard about Luciano is like that is just like he's emotionally mature and ready to be a major leaguer, and then it's just like it's getting the tools to like everything to catch up and work at the major league level. But that's what's
I
exciting
kind of
to me
even
about him.
saw it. I kind of even saw it with his family because they've been there for the Red Sox series, and so
Hmm.
they've shown them on the TV, and they're just kind of sitting there like, yeah, we're expecting him to do well here. Like Schmidt, when he debuted, had 40 people, and that was also really cool. Like you have to have balance on a roster; you can't have
Yeah.
all the same types of dudes. But it was kind of stark of like um, Marco's dad, his mom, I think his son and partner were all there. And yeah, they're just like very calm. It almost felt like they were doing just like fist pumps under the seat or like
Hmm.
not
Uh-huh.
in the purview, but they were just very composed. And I mean, it speaks to his makeup of like if you've got that kind of family dynamic and structure and just have a kind of solid foundation there. You're
Yeah.
not going to go through these huge swings yourself. So he looks like he's a solid dude who's going to, hopefully be around for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting thing about debuts too, is like the promise of what's to come, which in his debut, like you said, our first round draft pick hitting batting practice with Luciano. Um, Someone else was in that group too. It was a fun batting practice group because Crawford had his first BP since coming off the IL. Um, it was Luciano, Eldridge. I think Schmidt was in that group. And I was actually
Mm,
listening to the radio broadcast of Friday night's game, and Kapler in his reoccurring segment hopped on. And they were like asking him about that batting practice group, and he said, Casey Schmidt had the best round of anyone today, and then Schmidt went out and hit a double, an RBI double in Friday night's game. So That was kind of a fun nugget. But
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think
any other memorable debuts or anything else you wanted to talk about with Luciano?
well, I think, it's, I think I think he's a name that, like, the casual Giants fan knew and had been hearing, like, I think it's him and Harrison, Ramos,
Hmm.
I think that, like, people knew the most, and
Bart.
so Bart too, but it's exciting um, to have those guys come up, even if, like, they're not gonna have immediate success. I'm looking at Buster Posey's, baseball reference page. I think he's maybe one of the biggest, prospects we've had come up since that time. And um, he, I kind of forgot that like he had a 7 game cup of coffee in 2009 before he really,
Oh,
came
I
up in
absolutely
2010.
remember it. He was such a baby face, kind of like Steph Curry when he first started with the Warriors. Or yeah, it was just like you look like a child, but
Yeah, and I mean, he was
there's so
22
much
at the
there.
time.
Yeah.
And so I think
Hmm.
there's an interesting parallel here, and obviously we're bringing him up much earlier in the season, and it's not just a September thing. But
Hmm.
I think I think I hope that Giants fans don't like expect too much of him too quickly. I think he's capable of a lot, but he's 21, and I think just the fact that we like are willing to promote him at this rate, I think really speaks to the faith that people have in him. But yeah, I mean, I think with memorable debuts, we've had like a lot of in Giants history, but often it just doesn't extend beyond those first few weeks of excitement. And so um, I think that it's easy because like when you see an unknown quantity play, all you really have to go off of is what you read and then what you see on the field, and that kind of tells an incomplete story.
Hmm.
So I think hi Luciano's debut is more memorable for what it represents than necessarily like
Than
what
what it
exactly we're gonna
is.
get right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else who debuted? You mentioned Buster, and I have a very vivid memory of watching his first hit. It was just like a classic single to right field. Um, but yeah, any other debuts stand out to you of, you know, during that World Series era? It felt like so many of those were happening either right before that. Um, but yeah,
I'm trying to think. I mean, like,
I have one
definitely
if I can
hit it,
go into
please.
one. Crawford's debut in Milwaukee,
Mm,
where he hit a grand slam for his first hit, his first career homer. I don't know if it was in his first game, but that was his first series, I think. I think it was his first game. But yeah, Crawford, the classic Will Clark home run off Nolan Ryan for his first at bat, just went dead center against Nolan Ryan.
yeah.
Great name, by the way, Will Clark. but uh, but yeah, those two really stick out in my head. Um, I wish I could tell you what Timmy's debut was like, but
Yeah.
I don't have any memory of that
Yeah, well,
singularly.
I mean, this is gonna sound cop outy, but like, I think this year we've been blessed with some really nice ones. I think Keaton Wynn was a really nice moment, never having gone on a major league field before.
Hmm.
Matos like came up on fire, and it was really, I mean, and eventually his family got out, and like that was really exciting too.
I
Um,
think Casey's, I was mentioning it already, but with like his
yeah,
40 friends and family hit the home run in that game, he just sparked everything. That was a hell of a debut.
yeah. I'm trying to. There's a few there's like do you remember there's this Japanese outfielder who played left field for us? Do you know who I'm talking about? It was like in 20 like 15,
Yeah,
maybe
Nori
6.
Aoki.
Not Noriaoki.
No.
It was a prospect. I don't remember, but
Oh,
like it
yes. Huang or
something. I don't remember his name, um but like my point is that like I feel like I've been really excited about so many prospects that come up
mhm.
with us. And he's one of them that I remember being like, "Oh," and he had some games. I really wish I could remember what his let me see. No, it's not Shinjo. Um
Mm-mm. Could he have been
uh
Korean?
he could have been Korean. Um Also shout out Nori Aoki, but Um, anyway, um, no, I'm gonna find it and I'll cut this out. Come on, I can do it. Kensuke Tanaka.
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
and I remember he had a couple big games, and it was like, and I've like always like, I don't know. I'd love to see an Asian player on the Giants like do well. Um,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, he didn't last super long for us, but he had 2 memorable RBI, and he played like
Woo!
some good left field or something. But anyway, I think it's, even despite all the pessimism, it's an exciting time, and I think that, like you mentioned Timmy, it's like it's hard to know the magnitude of a debut until you're a few years down the line to see if they really are anything or not, and then that gives it context in retrospect. So hopefully we can look back on like, "Oh, remember when Casey Schmidt was like scuffling at the plate
Hmm.
in 2023 or whatever." So I think we're in good hands. I think we're also probably about at time for today.
Well, to your point, real quick,
Yes.
with the debuts that we've seen this year, at one point this weekend in this series against the Red Sox, we had Bailey behind the plate, 24 years old, Luciano at short, Schmidt at second, 21 and 24 years old, and Matos in center field at 21 years old. Our entire up the middle defense are our own homegrown prospects. And I felt like that was such a big deal during the World Series era with especially Posey and Crawford. It was like the guys that we brought up, that we developed, um, that can hit, but also like their calling card is defense, and that they're just these great all around players. They are solid. They're not the like fancy superstars. Like you're not necessarily going to be seeing them on Sports Center every day. Although with Bailey's arm and potentially Luciano's bat, maybe you will be seeing them on Sports Center more often, or MLB
Yeah.
Network. Sports Center doesn't really play baseball as much anymore, um, but yeah, I think it's just a really exciting time, and I think Luciano is like almost the like finished. It like finishes the puzzle, so to speak, at least on the
Mm,
position player side.
hmm.
I think our it's so much easier for our team to be able to fill in the gaps around those players, and I think we're talking about Schmidt at second base in this exercise, but like Tyro is our second baseman,
Yeah.
and having him, Luciano, Matos, Bailey, again Schmidt as a third baseman down the line, as a utility guy, whatever makes sense there. Um, and then, finding outfielders, corner outfielders, Lamont at first, maybe Bryce Eldridge down the line. It's just the debuts for me just become kind of magical of like what a lineup could be 2 years from now and what that's going to look like. And once these guys are kind of hitting their stride, what that'll
Yeah.
mean for us. So, it even though we've been scuffling a little bit, although been winning some games this week, the debuts just make things so much more exciting throughout the kind of ups and downs of the season.
Yeah, agree. Well, I'll be excited to check back in next week, seeing what this team looks like. I think you bring up some great points, and I'm actually, you know what, this episode made me more excited for the next few months of baseball than I had been this week. So I
Yes,
appreciate
that's
you
the
for
whole point. Let's make
that.
Evan excited. Let's not no pessimism. Actually, I like when you're pessimistic. It's a good
I'm just
balance,
being
but
real, okay? No, just
I'm
kidding.
just
Well,
real.
thank you for
No
joining
Dennis
us.
Downers, all right?
No Dennis Downers. But thank you for joining us this week. We will be back next week. And see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Foggy with a Chance of Seagulls. If you haven't already, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We have a video version available on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram for little clips that we'll be putting up every week. And it actually really helps if you leave us ratings, reviews, comments, anything. It all helps. Thank you for listening so much, and we'll see you next week.